I never imagined my own son would push me so violently at the Christmas table that I would fall to the floor in front of the whole family, just so his father-in-law could take my place. What he didn't know is that on that very night, I would change his life forever, and when he woke up the next day, 49 missed calls would be waiting for him. Because sometimes, consequences arrive when you least expect them. Before we continue, subscribe to William's Revenge Stories and activate the bell, because we publish new stories every day. Leave your like and tell us in the comments what city and country you are watching from. My name is Robert Miller. I'm 65 years old, and my entire life I built a small real estate empire from scratch. I lost my dear wife, Linda, 3 years ago. And since then, my son Adam became the most important thing in my world. Well, that's what I thought until the night of December 24th, 2024. That afternoon, I arrived at Adam's house with my heart full of Christmas spirit. I had bought special gifts for my grandchildren, Mark, 10, and Sarah, 8. I also brought a $1,200 bottle of Napa Valley Cabernet that I had been saving for a special occasion. The house was decorated with golden lights, and the aroma of roasted lamb filled the festive air. Everything seemed perfect for a magical family night. "Grandpa! Robert!" the children shouted, running towards me with that pure joy only little ones can show. Mark was already almost as tall as me, while Sarah still clung to my neck like when she was smaller. Their sincere hugs were the only moment of genuine happiness I would experience that damned night. Pamela, my daughter-in-law, greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. There was always something about her behavior that made me a little uncomfortable, as if every word I said was being carefully analyzed and weighed on some invisible scale that only she knew. "Hi, Robert. It's good you arrived early. Adam is just finishing up some details in the kitchen," she said, taking my coat with mechanical movements. Adam appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a Christmas apron. But his greeting was strangely distant, almost like it was a mandatory social protocol he had to follow. "Hi, Dad. Just leave your things there on the entry table." I immediately noticed that something strange was floating in the family atmosphere. There was an electric tension that I couldn't quite identify, but my 65 years of experience warned me not to ignore it. The table was set for 8 people, but there were only 6 of us in the house. It was obvious they were expecting more guests. "Is someone else coming tonight?" I asked, looking closely at the extra place setting at the main table, right at the head, where I traditionally sat during family celebrations. "Yes, my father will be here any minute," Pamela replied with a smile that definitely did not reach her eyes. I noticed a significant exchange of glances between her and Adam. She was referring to Everett Reed, a 68-year-old businessman who had made his fortune in the construction sector. He had always maintained a silent but palpable competition with me in the Chicago real estate world. Whenever it arrived around 9 at night, wearing an impeccable suit and an attitude that radiated wealth, the entire atmosphere of the house changed dramatically. Adam completely transformed. He became accommodating and attentive in a way I had never seen, not even with me during his teenage years. "Mr. Reed, what an honor to have you here in our home. Come in, please. Can I get you something to drink?" Adam said with a deference that was completely unfamiliar to me. I found this radical change in my son's personality strange, but I decided not to make a big deal about it. After all, it was Christmas Eve. My only intention was to enjoy a quiet and harmonious family evening. We headed to the dining room. Naturally, I walked toward my usual spot, the chair I had always occupied for years at family celebrations, located at the head of the table next to Adam. I had sat in that spot ever since Linda died, and the Christmas dinners moved permanently to my son's house. But whenever it approached the table, Adam looked at me with an expression I will never forget until the day I die. It was a cold, calculating, completely ruthless look, as if he had suddenly forgotten who I was and what I meant to him and his family. "Dad, I need you to get up from there immediately," he told me, in a voice I didn't recognize. "What? Why would I have to get up?" I asked, completely confused by this unexpected and incomprehensible request. "That place is for Mr. Reed. He is our guest of honor tonight." I felt as if I had been slapped across the face. The emotional impact was so strong that for a moment I couldn't fully process what I had just heard from my own son's lips. "Adam, son, I've always sat here. This is my place in this family. It's where your mother and I used to sit together." The tension in the dining room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Pamela looked down, completely uncomfortable, avoiding all eye contact. The children had stopped talking and were watching the scene with a confusion that broke my heart. Everett remained standing, observing the whole thing with a disturbing mix of feigned discomfort and barely disguised satisfaction. "Dad, please, don't make this any harder than it has to be. Just move to another chair. I don't understand what's happening here, Adam. Can you explain why I have to give up my place?" It was then that the unthinkable happened. Adam walked directly over to me, put his hands firmly on my shoulders, and pushed me with such brutal force that my 65-year-old body couldn't resist. I lost my balance completely and fell heavily onto the cold tile floor, in front of my entire family gathered for the Christmas celebration. The silence that followed my fall was absolutely deafening. The children screamed my name, terror in their voices. Pamela brought both hands to her mouth, horrified by what she had just witnessed. Everett remained motionless as a statue, but in his eyes I could see something that chilled my blood to the bone, a pure, genuine satisfaction at my public humiliation. From the cold floor, in pain and completely humiliated before my own family, I heard the words that would change the course of our lives forever. "My son, my only son, this place is for my father-in-law. Get out." In that devastating moment, as I lay on the icy dining room tiles, something fundamental broke inside my chest. It wasn't just my personal dignity that was crumbling. It was something infinitely deeper and more sacred. The image I had built of my son for 35 years. The unconditional love I had felt for him since the moment he was born. It all collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. Mark and Sarah ran to me with tears streaming from their innocent eyes, completely confused by the brutality they had just witnessed. "Are you okay, Grandpa? Does it hurt a lot?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling as she stroked my cheek with her small, warm hands. "I'm perfectly fine, little princess," I lied shamelessly as I stroked her silky hair, trying to hide the emotional storm that was beginning to brew inside me. Adam had already calmly taken his seat at the table, acting as if absolutely nothing extraordinary had happened. Everett settled ceremoniously into my chair, into the place that had been mine for decades of family celebrations. He didn't say a single word of apology or discomfort about the situation he had witnessed. Pamela served the Christmas dinner with nervous, clumsy movements, carefully avoiding any eye contact with me, as if my presence had suddenly become embarrassing and problematic for the harmony of her home. I sat silently in a side chair, relegated to the role of a second-class guest in what I had previously considered my own extended family. Throughout the entire evening, I meticulously observed every detail, every gesture, every word exchanged. I watched closely how Adam addressed Everett, with a level of respect and deference he had never shown me, not even during his formative years when I worked 18 hours a day to provide him with every educational and economic opportunity he had enjoyed. I watched how Pamela hung on every word spoken by this man who now occupied my place, laughing exaggeratedly at comments that honestly contained no particular wit or humor. I watched how my grandchildren shot me, glances full of sadness and confusion, unable to understand why their father had physically attacked their grandfather during a celebration that should have been filled with joy and family unity. And as I observed every one of these devastating details, I made a decision that would radically alter the fate of everyone present at that table, a decision that Adam would deeply regret for the rest of his life. The Christmas dinner proceeded in a dense, suffocating atmosphere that felt as thick as morning fog. Every bite tasted as bitter as the cruelest betrayal. Every laugh shared between Adam and Everett pierced my soul like sharp daggers, stabbing repeatedly into my shattered heart. The children bravely tried to fill the awkward silence with innocent comments about their schoolwork, their friends, their plans for Christmas vacation. But even they clearly sensed that something fundamental and terrible had irreversibly changed in the family dynamic they knew. "Sarah got the best grades in her class this term," I commented, trying desperately to reclaim some shred of normality amid the emotional chaos boiling violently inside me. "Oh, very good," Adam replied without even turning to look at me. He was completely focused on meticulously cutting the lamb he was personally serving to Everett, with an attention that bordered on pathetic servility. "Mr. Reed, is the meat cooked to your liking? Do you need anything else to go with your plate?" he asked solicitously, as if he were a professional waiter attending to an especially valuable client. It was as if my existence had become completely invisible to him. For 35 years I had raised, educated, and shaped this man. I had taught him fundamental values, solid moral principles. I had given him absolutely everything I had, and much more than I could financially afford. And now he was treating me like an annoying, unwelcome stranger at his own Christmas celebration. When we finished the main course, I excused myself discreetly to go to the bathroom. "I'll be right back," I announced calmly. No one responded to my comment. They didn't even lift their gazes from their glasses of aged brandy and their animated conversations about real estate deals and investment opportunities. Conversations in which the man who had built the entire family fortune from absolute nothing, was not included or consulted. I walked slowly to the bathroom, but my mind was already working at lightning speed, processing information, analyzing possibilities, calculating strategic moves that would very soon put everything into perspective. Once inside the bathroom, I carefully locked the door and faced my own reflection in the mirror. The man staring back at me had reddened eyes, not from tears of self-pity, but from a cold, calculated anger that was beginning to crystallize rapidly into pure, inflexible determination. I took my cell phone out of my jacket pocket and began to dial numbers I knew perfectly by heart. Numbers that would soon trigger a chain of events that Adam could never have anticipated in his worst nightmares. The first call was to Edward Rogers, my personal lawyer and trusted confidant for 25 years. His sleepy voice answered after the fourth ring, clearly annoyed by the Christmas interruption. "Robert, it's Christmas Eve. What kind of legal emergency do you have at this hour?" "Edward, I need you to prepare official documents tomorrow morning to immediately revoke all powers of attorney that Adam holds over my properties and businesses. All of them, without exception." There was a long, significant pause. Edward knew every detail of my real estate investment structure and knew exactly the devastating implications of what I was asking. "Robert, are you absolutely sure about this? That would mean Adam automatically loses all authority over the commercial properties, the joint bank accounts, the rental contracts. Absolutely everything." "I know exactly what it means, Edward. I also want you to immediately cancel all the bank guarantees I have co-signed in his name, the mortgage on his condo, the car loan, the corporate cards. Everything must be revoked before dawn." "What happened tonight, Robert?" "My son just showed me who he really is, Edward, and now I'm going to show him who I am." The second call was to Carol Evans, my personal accountant and trusted financial director. She also knew every single monetary movement involving my family and my business investments. "Carol, I am deeply sorry to bother you on this special holiday. I need you to freeze all joint bank accounts with Adam first thing tomorrow morning. Also, immediately suspend his monthly salary as managing director and all associated executive benefits." "Is there a serious legal problem, Mr. Miller? Should I prepare for some kind of audit or official investigation?" "No, Carol. I am simply taking back full control of what is rightfully mine." The third call was the most strategically important of the entire night's operation. I dialed the number of Roger Fernandez, my second in command at the real estate company, a loyal man who had been with me since the humble beginnings of my business. "Roger, forgive me for waking you at this hour on Christmas. Could you head to the office very early tomorrow morning? I need you to completely remove all of Adam's personal belongings from his executive office." There was a long silence before Roger answered with obvious caution. "Are you firing him for good, boss?" "That's right, Roger. Starting tomorrow, you will officially take over his position as CEO. Prepare an immediate termination letter for just cause, total loss of business confidence." "Understood perfectly, Mr. Miller. Do you need anything else specific?" "Yes, Roger. Place a handwritten note on his desk that says, quote, 'This office is not for you.' I want him to understand the message I'm sending perfectly." After completing these fundamental calls, I stayed in the bathroom for several more minutes, meticulously organizing every move I would make during the next crucial hours. I wasn't looking for blind destructive revenge. What I needed was pure, educational justice. For decades, I had built a solid real estate portfolio. I had sacrificed countless hours of personal rest. I had worked up to 18 hours a day to ensure my family enjoyed a comfortable and prosperous life. And my own son had just brutally shown me that all that titanic effort wasn't even worth his basic, elemental respect. I returned to the dining room with a serene smile that perfectly concealed the devastating storm brewing silently inside me. The evening's conversation continued without my participation, as if my existence had been completely erased from the family picture. "The European real estate markets are experiencing worrying volatility these last few months," Everett commented, gesturing theatrically with his glass of aged cognac. "My thoughts exactly, Mr. Reed," Adam agreed, with a servile enthusiasm that I found nauseating. "For that precise reason, we believe a strategic merger between our companies could be mutually beneficial for both parties." Those specific words hit me like an electric shock straight through my spine. "A merger? They were planning to merge my company, my entire adult life's work, with Everett's company, without even consulting me or informing me of these secret negotiations. A merger? I asked, in a completely controlled voice, keeping a neutral tone that wouldn't reveal my inner emotions. Adam looked at me as if he had completely forgotten I was still in the room. Oh yes, Dad. Mr. Reed and I have been discussing various commercial expansion possibilities for my company for the past few weeks. Technically, I'm the one who runs the daily executive operations, he replied with an arrogant smirk I had never seen on his face in all his years growing up. Technically, I repeated slowly, savoring each syllable as if it were an exquisite wine. I understand the situation perfectly now. Everett chimed in with his slow, calculatingly diplomatic voice. Robert, surely you understand that modern business requires fresh, innovative approaches. Adam has some truly revolutionary ideas for the real estate sector. I am absolutely certain he does, I replied, maintaining my impeccable composure, while internally I was meticulously noting every word spoken for the future reckoning that was approaching. The children had gone up to their rooms after dessert, completely oblivious to the adult drama unfolding on the lower floor of the house. Pamela collected the dirty dishes with mechanical, silent movements, clearly uncomfortable with the palpable tension, but not daring to interfere in the men's conversations that were determining the family's economic future. I believe it's time for me to retire, I finally announced, rising ceremoniously from the side chair where I had been relegated for the entire evening. Of course, Dad. Have a good rest, Adam replied, without even looking up from the cigar he was sharing with Everett. He didn't even bother to walk me to the front door of his home. It was Mark who came running down the stairs when he heard me leaving. Are you leaving already, Grandpa? I thought you'd stay much later, like you always do on Christmas Eve. Not tonight, little champion. I have some tremendously important things I need to resolve in the next few hours. Are you angry about what happened at dinner? My grandson's direct question pierced my heart like a sharp sword. Even a 10-year-old child had clearly perceived the brutal injustice of the family situation. I'm not angry, Mark. I'm deeply disappointed, which is something much more serious and lasting. But sometimes the bitterest disappointments teach us the most important truths about the people we thought we knew. I don't really understand what that means, Grandpa. You will very soon, my boy. I love you very much. Always remember that, no matter what happens in the future. I left that house feeling strangely liberated and energized. The cold December air filled my lungs as I walked slowly to my car. In the driver's seat, before starting the engine, I took out my cell phone again. I had one final call to make, possibly the most important one of the night. Lawyer Thompson's office, this is Robert Miller. Forgive me for bothering you on Christmas Eve, but I need to completely change my will first thing tomorrow morning. Yes, it's extremely urgent. As I drove to my home through the empty Christmas streets of Chicago, a satisfied smile appeared on my face for the first time all evening. Adam had played his cards, naively believing he had absolute control of the situation. But he had forgotten one absolutely fundamental detail. I was the one who had meticulously built the entire game board. And tomorrow, he would discover the real rules that governed this confrontation. I arrived at my residence around midnight, but sleep was the absolute last thing on my mind at this crucial moment. While the rest of Chicago peacefully celebrated Christmas Eve, I was meticulously preparing for the most important battle of my life. I turned on all the lamps in my home office and spread out every legal document I had accumulated over 4 decades of tireless business work on the massive oak desk. The first task was to meticulously review the original corporate contracts for my real estate properties. I needed to confirm something I had long suspected. Adam had never held any real equity in any of my companies. He held the title of CEO solely by my personal appointment, not by vested right or professional merit. His entire business authority depended exclusively on my will, and that will had just changed, radically and forever. As I reviewed folders and files accumulated over the years, my phone rang unexpectedly. It was Carol, my accountant, who had been examining the bank accounts since our earlier conversation. Mr. Miller, I've been meticulously analyzing the family finances since we spoke an hour ago. There is information you urgently need to know before proceeding with the cancellations. Explain everything, Carol. Adam has been using the business-backed loans for personal expenses in amounts far greater than any of us imagined. The condo he currently lives in has a $600,000 mortgage, fully guaranteed by you. His sports car accounts for $120,000 in a lease. The corporate credit cards have accumulated over $200,000 in debt from exclusively personal purchases. The information hit me like a sledgehammer. The magnitude of my son's financial irresponsibility far exceeded my most pessimistic estimates. Is he in default on any specific payments, Carol? Several large ones, Mr. Miller. Without your personal guarantees, he will be subject to immediate legal action. The banks will automatically begin foreclosure and repossession procedures tomorrow morning if there aren't sufficient guarantees. Perfect. Cancel all guarantees at dawn on December 25th. Are you completely sure about this decision? This will devastatingly ruin his personal financial situation for years. Carol, my son just ruined something infinitely more valuable than money. Our family relationship. Now he will learn about the real consequences of his decisions. After finishing this revealing conversation, I continued reviewing documents until I found exactly what I was looking for. Adam's original employment contracts with my company. Miller Construction paid him a monthly salary of $8,000, plus executive benefits that included a corporate car, private health insurance, unlimited representation expenses, and annual profit sharing. That entire set of privileges would completely disappear in a few hours. At 3 a.m., I called Roger again to confirm the details of the morning operation. Boss, I haven't been able to sleep thinking about what you asked. Do you really want me to execute this plan? Roger, do you trust my business judgment after all these years working together? Of course, Mr. Miller. You rescued me from absolute poverty and gave me professional opportunities I never imagined I'd achieve. Then trust me now. Adam has crossed a line from which there is no return. Go to the office early, remove all his personal belongings, and place that note exactly as I instructed. And what if he arrives while I'm moving his things? Even better. I want him to directly witness how it feels when someone takes his place. At 4 a.m., I dove into examining the financial statements from the last 5 years. What I discovered filled me with an explosive mixture of outrage and profound disappointment. Adam had been systematically diverting small amounts of money to personal accounts for years. Nothing technically illegal, but ethically reprehensible and morally unacceptable. He had used business contacts to get private contracts without informing me. He had collected secret commissions for recommending specific suppliers without declaring this additional income. My son hadn't just disrespected me on Christmas night. He had been systematically betraying my trust for years. At 5 a.m., I contacted Edward, my lawyer, again. Robert, I've been preparing all the documentation you requested, but I must warn you seriously. This will have immediate and irreversible legal consequences. Adam could sue you for wrongful termination. Edward, I have documentary proof of misappropriation of corporate funds, misuse of business resources, and undisclosed conflicts of interest for years. Do you honestly think he'll want to face a public trial? I understand the situation perfectly. The documents will be ready at 8 a.m. sharp. Excellent. Also, prepare the documents to immediately transfer ownership of the Gold Coast apartment that's registered in Adam's name. It was a Christmas wedding gift, but legally it's documented as a family loan. I want it back, completely. The condo where he currently lives with his family? Exactly. Let him learn to pay rent like any normal person, without family privileges. At 6 a.m., while I was making coffee to stay alert, I received a text message from Sarah, my granddaughter. Grandpa, Dad is very nervous and has been on the phone all night. Is everything okay? I love you very much. I replied immediately. Everything will be perfectly fine, little princess. Your grandpa loves you infinitely. Always remember that. At 7 a.m., it was time to make the most satisfying call of the entire operation. I contacted Central National Bank directly. Good morning, this is Robert Miller. I need to immediately cancel all guarantees I have co-signed in the name of Adam Miller. All of them, without any exception. Mortgage, loans, credit cards, absolutely everything. Mr. Miller, that will mean the payments will be called due immediately from the primary debtor. Are you completely sure? I know perfectly well. Proceed without delay. Very well, sir. The cancellation documents will be processed and active in exactly 1 hour. Should I inform Mr. Miller about this procedure? That won't be necessary. He'll find out very soon through other means. At 8 a.m. on December 25th, Edward arrived at my residence with all the prepared legal documents. I signed every paper with ironclad determination. Cancellation of executive powers, revocation of banking authority, immediate termination of managerial duties, recovery of assets given as family loans. Robert, once you sign this last document, there is absolutely no going back. Are you prepared for the consequences? Edward, A few hours ago, my son brutally pushed me to the ground in front of my grandchildren to give my place to another man. Do you honestly think there's any possibility of going back after that humiliation? I signed the final document at 8:30 a.m. At 9 a.m., I called Roger to confirm everything was ready at the office. Boss, I've already completely removed all his belongings. Computer, diplomas, family photos, even the plant he had in the window. Everything is packed in boxes in the storage room. And the note is placed exactly in the center of his desk, just as you requested. Perfect. When he arrives, let him in normally. Don't explain anything. Let him discover the new reality for himself. The dawn of December 25th had arrived, and with it, the day that Adam Miller would discover what the word consequences truly meant. Adam woke up that morning, December 25th, with a strange and unsettling feeling in his stomach. It wasn't just a hangover from the brandy he'd had the night before. It was something much deeper, as if his subconscious had picked up on imminent danger signals that his conscious mind couldn't yet process. Pamela was already up, preparing Christmas breakfast for the children with mechanical, silent movements. The atmosphere in the house felt tense, charged with an invisible electricity that no one mentioned, but everyone felt. "Did you sleep well?" Pamela asked, without looking at him, obsessively focused on pouring fresh-squeezed orange juice. "Not really," Adam replied, glancing at his cell phone. He had 3 missed calls from unknown numbers, probably telemarketers taking advantage of the holiday. What Adam didn't know was that at that very moment, while he was calmly eating cornflakes, several major Chicago banks had already initiated their default protocols. The banking computer systems had processed the massive cancellation of guarantees at dawn, immediately activating legal procedures that would radically change his life. At 10:15 a.m. on Christmas morning, Adam received the first truly alarming phone call. "Mr. Adam Miller, this is Monica Costello from Bank of America. We need you to contact us urgently regarding your home mortgage." "What's wrong?" "My mortgage payments are all current." "Sir, the primary guarantor on your loan was officially canceled this morning. Without that fundamental guarantee, the loan is automatically in default and immediately due in full." Adam felt as if a bucket of ice water had been thrown on him. "What guarantee?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "The guarantee signed by Mr. Robert Miller. Without it, you must pay the entire debt immediately, or we will proceed with foreclosure of the property." The call ended abruptly, leaving Adam holding the phone with trembling hands, desperately trying to process the devastating information. Before he could react, the phone rang again. "Mr. Adam Miller, Chase Bank Credit Risk Department. Your corporate line of credit has been suspended due to cancellation of guarantees. You must report to our main office immediately." He hung up, and the phone immediately rang again. "Wells Fargo. Your business credit card has been blocked due to preventive attachment procedures." Another call. "Citibank. Immediate execution of outstanding debts." And another. U.S. Bank. Notification of non-payment and vehicle repossession. In exactly 15 minutes, Adam received 49 phone calls from different banks, insurance companies, car dealerships, and corporate suppliers. His financial world was crumbling in real time, while he stood motionless in his kitchen, still in his Christmas pajamas. Pamela watched the catastrophe unfold with growing horror. "What is happening, Adam? Why so many alarming calls from banks?" "I don't understand," he muttered. But in the depths of his mind, a terrible suspicion was beginning to crystallize. The words his father had spoken the night before now echoed like a sinister prophecy. "Technically, I'm the one who runs the daily operations." At 11 a.m., he decided to go to the company offices immediately. He needed to understand what was happening, and more importantly, he needed access to corporate resources to handle this unexpected crisis. He drove his BMW 7 Series through the empty Christmas streets of Chicago, not knowing it would be one of the last times he'd be behind the wheel of that luxury car. The dealership had already received official orders to repossess it for non-payment of the lease. He arrived at the Miller Construction Building at 11:30. The security guard greeted him normally. Adam rode the elevator up to the 5th floor to his executive office. When he stepped out, he immediately noticed something abnormal. Roger Fernandez was sitting comfortably behind his desk, calmly reviewing documents that clearly belonged to the most confidential executive files. "Roger, what are you doing in my office at this hour on Christmas?" Roger looked up, his expression firm. "Good morning, Adam. This isn't your office anymore." "What do you mean, it's not my office? What are you talking about?" "Read the note on the desk." Adam cautiously approached and found it, placed exactly in the center of the wooden surface. a handwritten note in his father's unmistakable script. "This office is not for you." The words hit him like physical punches. It was the exact same cruel phrase he had used the night before, now aimed directly at him with surgical precision. He felt his knees go weak. "Roger, this has to be some kind of sick Christmas joke." "It's no joke, Adam. Mr. Miller appointed me CEO early this morning. You have exactly 5 minutes to collect your personal items from storage and leave the building. This is impossible. I am the CEO. I've spent years building this company with my father." "Not anymore, Adam. The official termination papers are filed. Just cause. Total loss of business confidence and serious undisclosed conflicts of interest." Adam felt the world spinning. He desperately pulled out his phone to call his father, but before he could dial, Roger handed him a sealed envelope. "Mr. Miller specifically instructed me to give you this." With trembling hands, Adam opened it. Inside was a letter on official company letterhead. "Adam, the consequences of our actions sometimes arrive when we least expect them. Last night, you brutally taught me that my place in your life no longer exists. Today, I am teaching you that your place in my company doesn't either. You have until 12 p.m. today to vacate any property registered in my name. The Gold Coast condo, the car, absolutely everything. You will learn to survive on your own resources, as you should have years ago. Do not look for me. Do not call me. Do not send intermediaries. This decision is final and completely irrevocable. Your father, who no longer recognizes you, Robert Miller." Adam read the letter 3 times before the words fully penetrated his terrified mind. It wasn't just the job. It was everything. His home, his car, his entire lifestyle, his total financial security. It had all disappeared in a single Christmas morning. While Adam was experiencing the total collapse of his business world, I had eaten a quiet breakfast at my home and was preparing for the second strategic move of my plan. It was time to confront Everett Reed directly, the man who had so enjoyed my public humiliation the night before. At 12 p.m. sharp, I dialed his main office number. "Good morning. May I please speak with Mr. Reed? This is Robert Miller, and I need to discuss an urgent business matter related to his son-in-law." The secretary replied after a brief pause. "Mr. Reed can see you this afternoon at 3. Does that time work for you?" "Perfect. I'll be there." I used the intervening hours to meticulously prepare all the documentation I would need. Loan contracts, bank guarantees, payment records, corporate account statements. Everything organized chronologically to present an irrefutable case. At 3 o'clock, I showed up at the luxurious offices of Reed Construction, located in the most exclusive business district in Chicago. Everett received me in his presidential office, decorated with noble woods and expensive paintings that proclaimed his wealth. "Robert, what a surprise. I didn't expect to see you so soon after last night's celebration." His fake smile couldn't hide the obvious discomfort my presence caused him. "Everett, I've come to discuss the business you've been secretly planning with my son." "Business? I don't know what you're referring to." "The merger you were both discussing last night at dinner. Did you honestly think I wouldn't find out the details?" Everett shifted uneasily in his Italian leather executive chair. "Robert, those were preliminary conversations. Nothing definite. Adam has interesting ideas for expanding his company." "His company," I repeated slowly, savoring each word. "That is precisely the confusion we need to clear up immediately." I opened my briefcase and spread all the legal documents I had prepared across his desk. "Everett, I want to show you something very interesting. These are the original contracts for all the properties Adam manages. As you can see, he has never been the actual owner of anything. Everything is registered in my name." Everett examined the papers with growing nervousness. "Furthermore, here are the complete records of all the family loans I've given him over the last 10 years. $50,000 he never paid back, plus accumulated interest. Where are you going with all this, Robert?" "I'm getting to a very simple business proposal, Everett. You either pay all the debts your son-in-law has incurred using my guarantees, or I will execute all my legal creditor rights against him." The color drained from Everett's face. "Are you trying to blackmail me?" "It's not blackmail, Everett. It's a perfectly legal business proposal. You thoroughly enjoyed watching your son-in-law humiliate me last night. Now you can prove if that satisfaction is worth $600,000. That's an insane amount, Robert. I have no responsibility for Adam's financial decisions. Of course you have no legal responsibility. But you do have a moral one. Last night you took my place at the family table after watching me get pushed to the floor. You remember the satisfaction in your eyes?" Everett stood up from his seat, trying to intimidate me. I will not let you speak to me in that tone in my own office. Everett, sit down and listen closely. I have certified copies of all these documents filed with 3 different law firms. I also have recorded testimonies from third parties confirming every one of these transactions. He slowly returned to his chair, understanding the situation was far more serious than he'd imagined. What testimonies? Carol Evans, my accountant, has documented every dollar Adam diverted from corporate accounts. Edward Rogers, my lawyer, has complete records of all the irregular contracts your son-in-law signed without authorization. Roger Fernandez can testify about the secret commissions Adam collected from suppliers. Everett's arrogant confidence was visibly crumbling. This could completely ruin Adam's business reputation. Exactly. Which is why I'm offering you a chance to resolve this discreetly. You pay his debts, and I keep all of this information private. And if you refuse, I will initiate legal proceedings tomorrow morning. All these documents will become public evidence. The Chicago business community will know every detail of how your son-in-law has been irregularly handling family money. Everett was silent for several minutes, calculating. Robert, why are you doing this? Adam is your son. He was my son. Last night, he chose to be something else entirely. How much time do I have to decide? 24 hours. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., I need your final answer. And what guarantee do I have that you won't use this information in the future? The guarantee that we are both serious businessmen who understand the value of keeping certain matters private, but only if you cooperate, immediately. Everett massaged his temples. This is more complicated than it looks, Robert. I can't just pull $600,000 from my accounts without explanations to my own family and partners. That's your problem, Everett. You decided to get involved in this family situation when you accepted my seat last night. Now you face the consequences of that decision. Is there any chance of negotiating the amount? The amount is non-negotiable. It's exactly $600,000. The condo mortgage, the car lease, the credit cards, and the family loans with interest. All legally documented. I stood up and gathered my documents. Everett, you have until 3 p.m. tomorrow to decide if you'd rather pay discreetly or face a public scandal that will affect both Adam and your own business reputation. Robert, wait. Can't we reach some kind of middle ground? The only possible agreement is the one I've proposed. $600,000, or a public lawsuit. I walked out of his office, leaving him completely alone with a decision that would determine his son-in-law's financial future, and potentially his own business tranquility. The second move of my strategy had been executed perfectly. While I was returning home, satisfied, Adam was living the most desperate hours of his life. He had left the corporate building in a daze, completely defeated. In the parking garage, he found a tow truck meticulously hooking up his BMW. The driver showed him an official court order for repossession. Wait, please. There must be some mistake. The payments are current. No mistake, sir. The contract is in default with no valid guarantees. The vehicle is being repossessed immediately. Adam had to take public transport to get home, something he hadn't done in over 10 years. During the subway ride, his phone didn't stop ringing with calls from creditors, banks, and suppliers, all demanding immediate payments he couldn't make. When he finally got to his Gold Coast condo, he found Pamela completely hysterical, holding multiple legal notices. Adam, we have 24 hours to vacate the property. They're foreclosing on the mortgage. What did you do? How did we get here? My father. He canceled all the bank guarantees. We owe $600,000 that we obviously don't have. Adam collapsed onto the sofa, completely defeated by the speed and effectiveness of his father's strategy. In less than 12 hours, he had lost his job, his luxury car, his home, and all his financial stability. And most devastating of all, he had completely lost his father. The words he had spoken last night now echoed like a terrible curse. This place is for my father-in-law. Get out. Now, he was the one who was completely out. Pamela alternated between uncontrollable sobbing and bitter reproaches as she desperately packed their most valuable belongings. This is all your fault, she screamed, throwing jewelry and documents into a suitcase. How could you be so stupid, pushing your own father in front of the children? Pamela, calm down. This can be resolved. I just need time to talk to him. Talk? Explain what exactly, Adam? They've taken everything. The house, the car, your job. What are we going to tell my parents when they find out about this? That question hit Adam like a brutal slap. Everett Reed had been a witness to the humiliation. If there was one thing Everett valued, it was family respect and traditional dignity. Adam picked up his phone with trembling hands and dialed his father-in-law. He needed support. He needed a powerful ally. "Everett, it's Adam. I need to talk to you urgently." The voice that answered him was as cold as ice. "Adam, I was expecting your call." "Everett, something terrible has happened. My father has completely lost his mind. He's taken everything from me over a simple, unimportant family argument. I desperately need your help." There was a long, threatening silence. "An unimportant argument. Adam, did you really just say that?" "Well, it was just a typical misunderstanding. You know how these dynamics work." "No, Adam, I don't. Because I would never have disrespected my father in the brutal way you disrespected yours last night." Adam felt panic taking over. "Everett, please. Understand the situation. Pamela and the kids need stability. What I understand perfectly is that I watched a 35-year-old man publicly humiliate the father who gave him everything. I saw you push Robert to the floor to offer me a seat that I never asked for, nor wanted. I thought you'd appreciate the gesture of respect." "Respect? Real respect isn't built by disrespecting others, especially not your own father." Adam could hear the growing contempt in Everett's voice. His last line of support was vanishing. "Everett, we're family. Pamela is your daughter. The children are your grandchildren." "Exactly. And for that very reason, I cannot allow my grandchildren to grow up thinking that savage behavior is acceptable. Pamela and the children will always have my unconditional support. But you, Adam, you have proven to be someone who definitely cannot be trusted." "What do you mean?" "I mean that any man capable of betraying and humiliating his own father is just as capable of betraying anyone else. There will be no financial support for me. There will be no job in my companies. There will be no refuge in my home for you." Adam felt his legs buckle. "You can't be serious." "I have never been more serious in my life. Furthermore, I have decided to contact Robert personally to offer him a sincere apology for being an involuntary witness to your deplorable behavior." "You're going to apologize to him? Seriously?" "Of course. A man of his moral caliber did not deserve that humiliation. And I am also going to offer him a serious business partnership proposal." Everett's words hit Adam like merciless hammer blows. Not only had he lost his father-in-law's support, but now Everett was allying directly with his father. "Everett, please, reconsider. Think of the family." "I have reconsidered, Adam, and my conclusion is clear. Robert Miller is exactly the kind of man I want to do business with. You are not." The line went dead. Pamela had heard the entire conversation from the doorway. Her face was ghost white. "My father isn't going to help us," she whispered, her voice breaking. "No, he's not. What are we going to do, Adam? Where are we going to live? The children have private school. I only work part-time. We can't survive without support." "I honestly don't know, Pamela. I just don't have any answers." In that devastating moment, Mark and Sarah came down the stairs, alerted by the raised voices and the chaos of boxes. "What's happening?" Mark asked, with the genuine worry of a child who senses his world is changing. "Why is Mom crying so much?" Sarah added, her small voice full of fear. Adam looked at his children and felt a pang of shame deeper than anything he had felt before. How could he explain to them that because of his own pride and monumental stupidity, their entire family stability had completely disappeared? The next day, at exactly 3 p.m., I received the call I was waiting for. It was Everett. His voice held a defeat I had never heard in him before. "Robert, I've been thinking all night about our conversation." "And what is your final decision, Everett?" "I can't pay that amount. $600,000 would mean liquidating critical investments for my company, and honestly, I don't consider it my financial responsibility to solve the problems Adam created for himself. I understand your position perfectly. You've made your decision, and I will make mine." "Robert, wait. Can't we find an alternative that benefits us both without going to legal extremes?" "The alternative was simple, Everett. You had 24 hours to prove if your satisfaction from that night was worth $600,000. You've decided it isn't. What happens now?" "Now, I will proceed exactly as I warned you. The lawsuits will be filed tomorrow morning. All the documentation I showed you will become official public evidence." There was a long pause before Everett responded, his voice notably weaker. "This is going to completely ruin Adam's reputation in all of Chicago. You should have considered that consequence before you decided not to help him. You chose to save your money instead of saving his reputation. Robert, please. The children are innocent in all of this." "The children have never been in danger, Everett. They will always have my love and my protection. The problem is exclusively with their father." After ending this call, I immediately contacted Edward, my lawyer. Edward, Everett has refused to cooperate. Proceed immediately with all the legal actions we prepared. Are you absolutely sure, Robert? Once we file these suits, the process will be irreversible and public. I am absolutely sure. Furthermore, I want you to begin the immediate attachment of the commercial properties where Adam receives rental income. That will mean he loses approximately $20,000 a month. Exactly. It's time for him to learn to live on the income he actually deserves. While these legal procedures were unfolding, Adam was facing his second night without a home. They had to leave the Gold Coast condo and check into a cheap hotel near Union Station, the only place they could afford. Pamela had called her parents to explain the situation. The conversation had been devastating. Everett confirmed he would not provide any financial support to Adam, though he did offer for her and the children to move into the family home temporarily. I can't stay with you after this, Pamela had told him that morning as she packed the children's last belongings. I can't be married to someone capable of humiliating his own father in such a brutal way. Pamela, we're a family. We've built a life for 15 years. A family is built on respect and solid values. You proved last night that you possess neither. The children had witnessed this conversation with tears in their eyes. Is Dad coming with us to Grandpa Everett's house? Sarah had asked. No, honey. Dad has to solve some important problems first, Pamela had replied, avoiding Adam's gaze. When is he going to solve them? The girl insisted. Pamela had looked at Adam with an expression that held years of accumulated disappointment. We don't know, Sarah. We just don't know. Meanwhile, in my office, I received updates from Carol on the progress of the bank seizures. Mr. Miller, the process is moving faster than expected. 3 different banks have confirmed the definitive freeze of all accounts Adam had access to. His credit cards are permanently canceled. And the commercial properties? The preventive lien is in process. The tenants have been officially notified that they must deposit rent into a court-held account until the legal situation is resolved. Perfect. How long do you estimate the full process will take? With all the documentation we've prepared, 2 weeks maximum for it to be final. That same afternoon, Roger contacted me from the office. Mr. Miller, Adam tried to enter the building this morning. Security denied him access, following your instructions. How did he react? He tried to explain he needed to pick up some personal documents. The guard informed him everything was moved to storage, and he needed legal authorization to access it. Did he mention anything specific? He asked repeatedly if you would be willing to talk to him. We told him those instructions had also been very clear. That night, as I ate dinner quietly in my home, I reflected on the events of the last few days. In less than 72 hours, I had made Adam understand exactly what it meant to lose respect and family support. This wasn't personal vengeance. It was a family education. It was teaching him that actions have proportional consequences, and that dignity is non-negotiable. My phone rang around 1:00 p.m. It was an unknown number. Mr. Miller, this is Sophia Johnson, an attorney representing Adam Miller. My client would like to request a meeting to discuss a possible amicable resolution to the current legal situation. Miss Johnson, tell your client I had 35 years to teach him about respect and consequences. He chose not to learn. Now, justice will be his teacher. Mr. Miller, my client is willing to apologize publicly and accept any conditions you deem appropriate. Apologies, after the consequences, don't have the same value as apologies before the actions. Your client should have thought about apologizing before he pushed me to the ground. Is there no possibility for dialogue? The dialogue ended on the night of December 24th, at 9:30 p.m. Exactly when your client spoke the words, "This place is for my father-in-law. Get out." I hung up the phone and continued my dinner, knowing that justice would run its inexorable course. 1 week after I initiated my corrective strategy, the results began to materialize with the precision of a Swiss watch. Carol informed me that 3 different firms were interested in acquiring my stakes in the commercial properties that generated Adam's main income. Mr. Miller, I have very attractive offers for the properties on Wacker Drive, Michigan Avenue, and the Gold Coast. The buyers are willing to pay above market value. What's the best total offer? $800,000 for all 3. It's significantly higher than our initial valuation. Accept the offer. I want the transfer completed this week. Are you sure, Mr. Miller? This means Adam will permanently lose $20,000 a month in rental income. Completely sure. It's time for him to understand that privileges are earned with respect, not inherited with arrogance. While I executed this strategic sale, Adam was living the most desperate days of his adult life. After a week of sleeping in cheap hotels, his meager personal savings were completely gone. Pamela had made the final decision to move with the children into Everett's residence, leaving Adam completely alone. "I can't let the children live in this economic uncertainty," she had explained. "They need stability that you can no longer provide." "Pamela, I just need time. This can be fixed." "How, Adam? Your father has blocked all your income. You have no job, no house, no car. What exactly are you going to fix this with?" Adam had no answer. His entire professional life had depended on the family business. Without that backing, he was helpless. He had tried to contact former colleagues, desperately looking for a job. However, news of his family situation had already circulated. "Adam, I'd like to help, but hiring someone who is facing legal problems with his own family wouldn't be prudent for our corporate reputation." Greg Martin, a director at a competing construction firm, had told him. "My family problems don't affect my professional ability, Greg. You know my experience." "Of course. But investors are very sensitive to these situations. We need employees who project stability and confidence." Similar conversations were repeated. Nobody wanted to be associated with him. Meanwhile, I had begun to implement the final phase of my plan. With the money from the sale of the properties, I decided to make an investment that would definitively show who controlled the family wealth. I contacted Luxury Realty Group to acquire a spectacular apartment in the Gold Coast neighborhood. "Mr. Miller, we have exactly what you're looking for. A 2,000 square foot penthouse with a panoramic terrace, completely renovated, in the best area of Chicago." "What's the price?" $500,000. "It's an excellent investment." "Perfect. Proceed with the immediate purchase." This wasn't just an investment. It was a symbolic statement. While Adam struggled to find a cheap place to live, I had bought a luxury residence, demonstrating my total economic independence. Edward informed me of Adam's desperate attempts to find legal representation. "Robert, they've consulted with 4 different lawyers, but no one wants to take the case. The documentation we have is completely irrefutable." "What arguments are they trying to use?" "Mainly that the decisions are disproportionate to the offense. But legally you have the absolute right to revoke guarantees and powers that you granted voluntarily." "Is there any chance they'll find a legal loophole?" "None. And we have evidence of the financial irregularities Adam committed for years." The final blow came when I executed the sale of my stake in Miller Construction to a foreign investment group. The company Adam thought he ran no longer belonged to the Miller family. Roger confirmed the transition was smooth. "Mr. Miller, the new owners have ratified my appointment as CEO. The company will continue to operate normally, but under new corporate management." "Has Adam tried to contact the new owners?" "Yes, but they informed him they have no obligation to maintain ties with the previous administration. His employment history officially ends with the termination you issued." That same afternoon, I received an unexpected call from Sarah, from Everett's house. "Grandpa, when are you coming to visit us? Mom says Dad can't come because he has important problems to solve." "Very soon, little princess. Are you okay? Is Mark okay?" "Yes, but we miss when the whole family was together." "Are Dad's problems very big?" "Some problems are as big as the people who create them, Sarah. But you and Mark have nothing to worry about. Grandpa will always take care of you." "Is Dad going to fix the problem soon?" "That depends on Dad, honey. Some things can only be fixed by the people who broke them." After this conversation, I reflected. In 2 weeks, I had made Adam experience the direct consequences of his decisions: loss of income, family isolation, deterioration of his professional reputation. However, the goal was not his permanent destruction, but his profound education. He needed to understand that family respect is non-negotiable. The lesson was being learned. But the final chapter was still missing. 3 months after the Christmas catastrophe, I had established a new routine that gave me a peace I hadn't felt in decades. My penthouse in the Gold Coast had become my refuge. My mornings were spent managing my new real estate investments. With the capital from the sales, I had diversified my portfolio into international funds and properties in cities like Miami, Austin, and Denver. Carol visited me weekly. "Mr. Miller, your investments have generated a 15% return in just 3 months. Your current net worth significantly exceeds what you had before this restructuring." "Excellent. Have you had any news about Adam's situation?" "From what I've gathered, he's working as a salesman at a small real estate office. His monthly salary is no more than $2,000. He's living in a shared apartment in a suburb like Waukegan." "And the family?" Pamela and the children are still living with Everett. She has formally requested a legal separation and is considering divorce. This information gave me conflicting feelings. Satisfaction that he was experiencing real consequences, but also a deep sadness at the disintegration of the family. My afternoons were spent on activities I had postponed for years: painting classes, reading, dinners with loyal friends. One of those afternoons, the doorbell rang. It was unexpected. When I opened the door, I found Mark and Sarah, accompanied by Everett. The children ran to me immediately. "Grandpa, we've missed you so much," Sarah shouted, clinging to my neck. "Grandpa, why haven't you come to visit us?" Mark asked. Everett remained at the threshold, looking awkward but respectful. "Robert, I hope you don't mind the unannounced visit. The children have been insisting for weeks." "Of course I don't mind. Please, come in." While I made hot chocolate, Everett and I had a conversation that was long overdue. "Robert, I want to offer you a sincere apology for my behavior during that Christmas dinner. My attitude was completely inappropriate. Everett, I appreciate your apology, but the primary responsibility was Adam's, not yours. Even so, I should have refused to take your seat. A man my age should have immediately understood the importance of that family gesture." "How is he?" "Bad. Very bad. He's lost weight. Looks like he's aged 10 years. And he's completely obsessed with finding some way to contact you." The children were exploring my new home, amazed by the terrace. "Has he learned anything from this?" I asked directly. "I think so. He's tried to explain to me what happened that night, always blaming himself completely. He says he understood too late the real meaning of what he did to you." "Late understanding has limited value, Everett. I know. But I also know he's your son, and the children need some kind of stable family relationship." Sarah approached, holding one of my paintings. "Grandpa, did you paint this? It's beautiful." "Yes, little one. I've started painting. Can you teach me? I want to paint like you." "Of course, sweetie. Any time." Mark sat next to me on the sofa. "Grandpa, when is the problem with Dad going to end?" The question pierced my heart. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that his father crossed lines that have no return? "Some problems end when the people who caused them show they have truly changed, Mark." "Hasn't Dad changed?" "I don't know, son. Only Dad can answer that." Everett intervened carefully. "Robert, would there be any possibility that Adam could at least write you a letter? He's not asking for money. He's not asking for a job. He just wants a chance to explain what he's learned." "Everett, for 35 years I had the chance to teach him values. If it took him losing my dignity to learn them, then the lesson was more costly than necessary." "I understand. But I also understand that family is the most important thing. Family is built on mutual respect. Without respect, you're just people who share a last name." The children spent the whole afternoon. We played, we painted, we cooked a simple dinner. It was the first time in months I had experienced that pure family joy. When it was time to leave, Sarah hugged me tightly. "Grandpa, can we come visit more often?" "Whenever you want, little one. This will always be your home." Mark was more direct. "Are you going to forgive Dad one day?" "Mark, forgiveness isn't something that's given automatically. It's something that is earned by proving you truly understand the damage you caused." "How can he prove that?" "That's a question Dad has to answer, not me." After they left, I stood on the terrace, watching the Chicago skyline. The children needed stability, but I could not sacrifice my dignity to provide it. Adam had made his choices that Christmas night. Now he had to live with the consequences. And I had to live with the peace of having set clear, immovable boundaries. The education had been delivered. The learning was entirely up to him. 6 months after that fateful Christmas Eve, I had achieved a serenity I hadn't felt in decades. My life had a new rhythm, built on a foundation of reclaimed dignity. My mornings began with walks in Lincoln Park. My afternoons were dedicated to my new passion, artistic photography. Weekends were exclusively for Mark and Sarah. We had a weekly tradition where they would come to my penthouse, and we would cook together. "Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to be an architect like you," Sarah told me. "I'm not an architect, Princess. I'm a real estate developer. It's almost the same. You build houses where people can be happy." Carol continued to manage my investments. My net worth had increased 40% in these months. "Mr. Miller, I have an interesting proposal. An international hotel chain wants to partner with you to develop a resort complex on the Florida coast." "What's my stake?" 50% of the investment, 60% of the profits. It's an exceptional opportunity. Proceed with the preliminary negotiations." While my life blossomed, I received sporadic reports about Adam. Roger had told me he was working as a junior salesman at a small suburban agency, earning minimal commissions that barely allowed him to rent a room in Waukegan. Mr. Miller, I've seen him a couple of times. He looks like he's lost at least 30 pounds. Always wears cheap clothes and avoids eye contact. Has he tried to approach you? Once. He only asked if you were in good health. When I said yes, he just nodded and walked away. Everett kept in cordial contact because of the kids. Robert, Pamela has officially filed for divorce. Adam hasn't contested it. In fact, he voluntarily waived any claim to shared assets or custody. How are the children? Sad, but also relieved. The constant tension was affecting them. Does Adam see them? Sunday afternoons. In a public park near the house. He always brings some small gift he can afford on his salary. This gave me conflicting feelings. Satisfaction that he was fulfilling basic fatherly duties, but also an inevitable melancholy. One Sunday afternoon, I got an unexpected call from Mark. Grandpa, can I ask you something important? Of course, champion. Dad asked me to give you a message. He says he doesn't want to bother you. But if you were ever willing to read a letter from him, he would write it. The silence that followed was long. Mark, what do you think about that idea? I think Dad is very sad. Yesterday at the park, he started to cry when Sarah asked when we were going to be a family again. And what did he tell her? He said that some things that break can't be fixed, but that he would always love us. And he would always love you, Grandpa, even if you didn't love him anymore. My grandson's words hit me like arrows. After 6 months of absolute silence, Adam had sent an indirect message that held more genuine humility than any formal apology. Mark, tell your dad he can write the letter. But understand that reading it doesn't mean I will answer. I'll give it to him? Yes. But tell him to keep the letter brief. 1 page, maximum. If he's truly learned something, he can say it in a few words. That night, watching the lights of Chicago from my terrace, I reflected on the path I had traveled. I had proven that dignity was non-negotiable, that family respect had absolute value. My new life was full of purpose. The children received the unconditional love they deserved, but they were also learning by example that certain lines cannot be crossed. Adam had lost privileges, comforts, and social status, but he had potentially gained something far more valuable, the real understanding of what it means to respect the people who love you. If his letter proved this understanding was genuine, then the education had been successful. If not, it would only confirm that some lessons arrived too late to change a person's fundamental character. The answer would come soon, but regardless of its content, I had recovered the most important thing: my self-esteem, my autonomy, and the certainty that I would never again allow anyone, not even my own son, to trample on my dignity. The story had ended for me. For Adam, perhaps it was just beginning. If you like this story, support us with a like, subscribe to William's Revenge Stories, and leave your opinions in the comments. To hear the next story, click on the box that appears on the left. Thanks for joining us.